Welcome, travelers of Middle-earth. Today we embark on a journey to unravel one of the greatest enigmas in Tolkien's legendarium. The mystery of Glorfindel, a warrior of radiant presence, a hero whose deeds echo through the ages, yet whose existence raises perplexing questions. Is the Glorfindel who rode forth to save Frodo at the ford of Bruinen the same as the mighty elf lord who fell in Gondolin in the First Age? Can an elf truly return from death? And what hidden clues lie buried within Tolkien's writings that reveal the truth? To solve this mystery, we must travel far back into the Elder Days, to the great hidden city of Gondolin, in the year 510 of the First Age. It was then that Morgoth unleashed his most devastating assault upon the last stronghold of the Noldor in Middle-earth. As the city burned and its people fled, Glorfindel, captain of Gondolin, led a desperate escape through the perilous mountains. But doom awaited him. A Balrog, one of Morgoth's fire demons, ambushed the survivors in the treacherous pass of Cirith Thorenath. In a battle of unmatched ferocity, Glorfindel struck down the monstrous foe, but in doing so, he too fell, his golden hair catching the light one final time before he was lost to the abyss. His people mourned, and his body was recovered and buried beneath a cairn of white stones, his tale seemingly at an end. Yet, inexplicably, Glorfindel appears once more in The Lord of the Rings, now in Rivendell, a mighty and ageless lord of great power. He rides to aid Frodo against the Nazgul, glowing with a light unseen in mortals. The conundrum is obvious. How can a slain elf of the First Age stand among the Elder of the Third? Did Tolkien leave us clues that explain his return? To answer this, we must turn to an overlooked passage from his late writings. In The Peoples of Middle-earth, Tolkien himself addresses this question, suggesting that Glorfindel was indeed sent back to Middle-earth by the Valar, a rare honor bestowed upon only the most noble of elves. But why? Why would the Valar allow his return? To answer this, we must first examine the concept of elven reincarnation. Unlike men, who depart the world entirely, elves are bound to Arda, and upon death their spirits pass to the halls of Mandos. Most remain there indefinitely, while others may be restored to life by the will of the Valar. But such a gift is not granted lightly. It is said that only those of exceptional virtue, or who have a great role yet to play, may return to the living world. If Glorfindel was permitted such a fate, then it suggests that his destiny was not yet fulfilled, that he had some greater purpose in the war against Sauron. Thus, we find ourselves at the crossroads of revelation. The evidence grows stronger, yet more questions remain. How did Glorfindel change after his return? Why did he not join the Fellowship? And what was his ultimate fate? The answers lie in the next piece of the puzzle, as we delve deeper into the nature of his power and the significance of his role in the Third Age. With the revelation that Glorfindel was indeed sent back to Middle-earth, we must now examine how he changed after his return. When we encounter him in The Lord of the Rings, he is no ordinary elf. His very presence radiates power. Frodo, while under the influence of the One Ring, sees him as a being of dazzling light, a figure of near-divine majesty. This is significant. Such radiance is not common among the elves of Middle-earth, but it is seen in those who have dwelt long in Aman, the Undying Lands. It is a mark of the Calaquendi, the high elves who have beheld the light of the two trees. Yet Glorfindel was not among those who journeyed to Aman in the ancient days. He was born in Middle-earth, in the city of Tirion, before the Noldor's rebellion. This raises an intriguing possibility. When Glorfindel was restored by the Valar, he was not simply revived, he was transformed. He was given new wisdom and power, elevated among the Maiar-touched elves like Galadriel and Elrond. In The Peoples of Middle-earth, Tolkien suggests that he was sent back as an emissary of the Valar, tasked with aiding the Free Peoples against the shadow of Sauron. This aligns with his abilities, for few others could face the 9 ringwraiths on open ground and not only drive them back but utterly terrify them, as he does when he confronts the Witch King at the ford of Bruinen. Even Aragorn, a mighty warrior, acknowledges that Glorfindel alone could withstand the Nazgul without fear. Yet despite his unmatched strength, Glorfindel does not join the Fellowship. Why? The answer, though subtle, is found in Tolkien's late writings. Glorfindel's role was not to walk the path of Frodo, but to act as a guardian and a guide. His presence in Rivendell suggests that he was entrusted with the protection of Elrond's stronghold, ensuring that the last refuge of the elves remained secure while the War of the Ring unfolded. Moreover, as a returned spirit, his purpose was likely bound by the will of the Valar. He was not meant to directly destroy the ring, but to aid those who could. This raises an even deeper question. If Glorfindel was so mighty, why did he not challenge Sauron directly? The answer lies in the nature of power in Middle-earth. Like Gandalf and the other Istari, Glorfindel's strength was immense, but his task was not to rule or to dominate. The fate of Middle-earth was left in the hands of mortals, and his role was that of a guide, a protector, a beacon of hope. The Valar had learned from past mistakes. Direct intervention had only led to greater conflict. Thus, even one as great as Glorfindel could not alter the course of history beyond what was allowed. And so, we see a pattern emerging. Glorfindel is not merely an elf returned from death. He is a sign of the unseen influence of the Valar, a reminder that Middle-earth was not abandoned in its darkest hour. But one final mystery remains. What became of Glorfindel after the War of the Ring? Did he depart for the Undying Lands, or did he linger in Middle-earth as one of the last of the Eldar? To find the answer, we must look to the final clues hidden in Tolkien's notes, where the fate of this luminous warrior is subtly revealed. As we draw closer to the truth of Glorfindel's fate, we must examine the final years of the Third Age and the departure of the elves from Middle-earth. The War of the Ring ended in 3019 of the Third Age, and with it the dominion of men began. Elrond, Galadriel, and Gandalf sailed into the west, departing from the Grey Havens alongside Frodo and Bilbo. But what of Glorfindel? Did he too board one of the last ships, or did he remain, watching over Middle-earth even as the age of the elves faded into twilight? Tolkien provides no direct answer, but the clues are there for those who seek them. In The Peoples of Middle-earth, Tolkien states that Glorfindel was sent back to Middle-earth in the Second Age, likely around the same time as the Istari, meaning he had already dwelt in exile for thousands of years. His task, it seems, was not only to oppose Sauron, but to guide the remnants of the Eldar, ensuring their safe passage before the world changed forever. Given this, it is likely that Glorfindel, like Elrond, did not linger long after Sauron's defeat. A key passage in The Lord of the Rings reinforces this. When Frodo asks Gandalf about the fate of elves after the ring is destroyed, the wizard states that those who dwell in Middle-earth yearn for the sea, and that their time is at an end. Glorfindel, having walked the shores of Aman once before, would surely feel this call more strongly than most. It is difficult to imagine him remaining in a land that no longer belonged to his kind, especially when the power of the elves was waning. Yet there is one final mystery. Why does Glorfindel not appear in the story of the Grey Havens? Why is his departure not recorded? The answer lies in Tolkien's writing process. Many details of the later years of Middle-earth remained unwritten or were left ambiguous, either intentionally or due to the evolving nature of the legendarium. Unlike Elrond and Galadriel, who played direct roles in Frodo's journey, Glorfindel's influence was more distant. He was a protector, a warrior of the old world whose deeds lay beyond the understanding of mortals. His departure, though unrecorded, would have been inevitable, a quiet yet profound farewell to an age long past. And so, the mystery of Glorfindel is unraveled. He was, beyond doubt, the same elf lord who perished in Gondolin, restored by the grace of the Valar and sent forth as a guardian against the darkness of the later ages. His power, his wisdom, and his luminous presence marked him as one of the greatest elves to walk the lands of Middle-earth. But in the end, like all his kin, he too heeded the call of the sea. Yet one question lingers still. Why was Glorfindel chosen for such a fate? What made him worthy of such an extraordinary return, when so many other great elves were left to dwell in the halls of Mandos? To answer this, we must go deeper, into the heart of Tolkien's philosophy on life, death, and the fate of the Eldar. The final piece of the puzzle awaits. To fully understand why Glorfindel was granted such a rare fate, we must look beyond the events of Middle-earth and into the philosophy that governed the fate of the elves. Tolkien's writings reveal that death for the Eldar was not an end, but a transformation. Unlike men, whose spirits leave the world entirely, elves remain bound to Arda until its very end. When they die, their spirits travel to the halls of Mandos, where they may be given new bodies, if they are deemed worthy. But this was no simple process, and few were ever restored to life. In Morgoth's Ring, Tolkien explains that an elf who was permitted to return had to have been untainted by great evil, and must still have a purpose left to fulfill. This is what sets Glorfindel apart. Unlike the Noldor, who rebelled against the Valar and followed Feanor into exile, Glorfindel was one of the noble elves of Gondolin who remained loyal to Turgon, resisting the doom that had fallen upon his kin. His sacrifice in the mountains, battling a Balrog to save the escaping survivors, was an act of true heroism, one that mirrored the great deeds of the Maiar themselves. This parallel is important. The only other known beings to return from death in Middle-earth were Gandalf and Luthien. Gandalf, a Maiar, was sent back by Eru himself to complete his mission against Sauron. Luthien, the greatest of all elven maidens, was given a mortal fate because of her love for Beren. But Glorfindel, an elf, stands in a unique position. His return was not an act of love nor divine intervention, but a sign of his extraordinary nature. Moreover, Tolkien suggests that Glorfindel's spirit was cleansed in Aman, that he became almost like the Maiar in power. This explains his ability to strike fear into the hearts of the Nazgûl, his glowing presence seen by Frodo when the veil of the physical world was lifted. He was no longer just an elf. He had become something greater, a link between the children of Ilúvatar and the divine forces of the world. But this transformation also meant that Glorfindel was no longer bound to the same struggles as other elves. His purpose was different. He was not to seek vengeance, nor to claim a kingdom, but to serve as a guide, a protector, a force of resistance against the lingering shadows of Morgoth's influence. This is why he was sent to Middle-earth in the Second Age, likely to aid in the wars against Sauron. This also explains why in the Third Age he remained in Rivendell rather than ruling a realm like Galadriel or Elrond. His purpose was not dominion, but preservation. Thus, Glorfindel's return was not simply a reward, it was a sign of a greater struggle between light and darkness. He was a reminder that even in the darkest times, the will of the Valar remained present in Middle-earth, working through those who had proven themselves worthy. And yet, one final question remains. If Glorfindel was one of the mightiest elves to walk Middle-earth, why is he so often overlooked? Why does he not take center stage in the great battles of the War of the Ring? The answer, as we shall see in our final segment, reveals the very essence of Tolkien's storytelling. The idea that true power lies not in seeking glory, but in quiet, steadfast resistance. As we reach the end of our journey, one final mystery remains. Why does Glorfindel, despite his immense power, remain on the edges of the great events of the War of the Ring? Why does he not lead the armies of the West? Why does he not strike down the Nazgûl himself? The answer is subtle, yet profoundly tied to the very themes that define Tolkien's world. Glorfindel is a paradox, one of the greatest warriors in Middle-earth, yet a figure who does not seek dominion, renown, or power. This, perhaps, is the ultimate reason why the Valar deemed him worthy of return. He is the embodiment of Tolkien's ideal hero, not one who seeks personal glory, but one who serves because it is right. His role is not to be the leader of armies, but a protector, a guiding presence in times of need. We see this most clearly in the Fellowship of the Ring. When Glorfindel arrives to rescue Frodo, he does not carry him to Rivendell himself, but places him upon Asfaloth, his horse, entrusting Frodo with the task of reaching safety. He clears the way, yet does not interfere in the moment that will define Frodo's struggle against the ring. This is a deliberate choice by Tolkien. Glorfindel, though powerful, does not take the place of those whose burdens are their own to bear. This idea is reinforced when Elrond chooses the Fellowship. Though Glorfindel is present, he is not selected to go with Frodo. Instead, Gandalf, Aragorn, and the other members, none as powerful as he, are chosen. Why? Because the struggle against Sauron was meant to be fought by those tied to the fate of Middle-earth. The ring was not meant to be defeated by raw strength, but by resilience, sacrifice, and the courage of the seemingly small and insignificant. If Glorfindel had accompanied Frodo, his presence might have upset this balance. Moreover, Glorfindel's role in Middle-earth was already defined. He was a guardian of Rivendell, a protector of those who remained. He was one of the last great Eldar to walk the mortal lands, and perhaps he understood that his presence in battle was not what was needed. His task was not to destroy Sauron, but to ensure that those who could would have the chance to do so. And so Glorfindel fades into the background as the Age of Men dawns. After the War of the Ring, there is no mention of him in the records of the Fourth Age. Yet, we can assume that, like the other great elves, he took the final journey westward, returning at last to the shores of Aemon, to the land where his story began. The mystery of Glorfindel is one of the most fascinating in all of Tolkien's legendarium. Through him, we see the full span of elven fate: life, death, resurrection, and the quiet acceptance of change. He is proof that Middle-earth was never truly abandoned, that the Valar's influence still lingered in subtle ways, working through those who remained steadfast against the darkness. His return was not an accident, nor a mere reappearance of a forgotten character. It was a deliberate part of the deeper mythos of Ardar, a story of sacrifice, redemption, and quiet heroism. And so, the golden-haired warrior who once fell in the mountains of Gondolin walks into legend once more. His tale is one of light against shadow, of strength without ambition, of power used not for dominion but for protection. He is, in the end, the very essence of what Tolkien believed a hero should be. Perhaps this is why Glorfindel remains such a mystery, because true heroism, as Tolkien saw it, does not seek to be known. It simply is.